An alien from afar visits Earth to save it from the impending disaster. But the alien life form insinuates that he came to save the Earth and not the humans, stating that the main cause of the impending disaster are the humans. It's now up to Helen alongside some other representatives of Earth to prove to the aliens that humans can indeed change to save the planet from further destruction. In the year 1928, from the highest point of the mountain where the snow is harsh, a mountaineer explores the mountain and discovers a large sphere shrouded with white clouds and emits a very bright light. The mountaineer strikes it with his pickaxe, but the sphere retaliates by emitting a brighter light that makes him unconscious. As he wakes up, he checks his surroundings in his hand, only to notice that the sphere is nowhere to be found after the encounter. Many years later, Helen, a famous astrobiologist, is at home with Jacob, her stepson, making some dinner. Before the dinner starts, a phone call surprises them as the anonymous caller tells her that the federal agents are on the way to pick her up for an urgent matter. Helen opens the door with Jacob beside her. She assures Jacob that everything will be fine and he does not need to worry. Eventually, the federal agent tells her that this urgent matter needs immediate attention, which requires her expertise in the field of science. They will debrief her on the way to the camp after she agrees to come with them. Helen leaves Jacob at her neighbor as the agreement comes with no civilians can be brought at the camp for confidential reasons. Moments after a long drive in a convoy, they arrive at the camp where all the other experts are waiting for a chopper to fly towards Linwood Military Academy, New Jersey. Helen meets the rest of the experts and notices that all of them are experts in science except for one that is a civil engineer. They all brainstorm to come up with an answer to what's happening as they all are clueless before finally arriving at Linwood Military Academy, New Jersey, where they head towards the laboratory to be briefed on what are the standard procedures and roles of the experts per station. Helen meets up with Michael, the lead scientist who escorts her to the meeting room for the urgent matter. At the meeting room, Michael starts the meeting with the experts by showing them the screen which shows a large object is about to hit Manhattan and is expected to kill a large amount of people. He adds that the large object is not free falling and is locked on the coordinates of Earth. The team of experts alongside some soldiers suit up and ride the helicopter towards the expected location of the impact of the large object. The team braced themselves for the impact, but there was no explosion or heavy damage at the area. The large object appears to have slowed down and won't crash on sight. Helen turns to gaze out the helicopter window, a large sphere shrouded with white clouds and emits a very bright light. The team rushes down the helicopter and detects high levels of radiation at the area. Still, the soldiers that are on standby are very cautious and point their weapons at the large sphere as they expect a dangerous scenario. A hole appears in front of the large sphere. Helen approaches the hole and reaches for a human figure that is slowly descending. As Helen and the alien make contact, the order of the general is to not shoot. But one soldier panics and immediately fires and hits the left gut of the alien. The alien falls on Helen's arms and bleeds the same blood as a human, which surprises Helen and the others. She immediately shouts for help to cover up the wound of the alien as it appears to be harmless. The initial reaction of the large sphere is to send out its giant robot with a singular eye. It generates a noise that knocks out all of New York City's electrical systems and paralyzes everyone temporarily. The alien contacts the robot and commands it to shut down before it can take the alien back to the large sphere. The military and medic team rushes to take the alien on a stretcher and rushes it to the military hospital, where the surgeon attempts to save its life. The surgeon in charge is fascinated by the body structure of the alien as it resembles a human body with the same functions. Finally, the bullet is taken out by a surgeon who is called in, but he notices that there are a lot of sticky tissues that are shedding from the body of the alien. Helen cannot explain the phenomena and wants to study the tissues of the alien to find some answer. Later, the excess tissues have all fallen on their own and reveal the alien having a human body. The alien is immediately placed in an incubator to help maintain its body that is comparable to a newborn baby. After some time, the alien within the incubator has fully developed. The alien is completely grown and conscious. His body starts to thrash around in the incubator and Helen is the first one to approach him. She starts by introducing herself and assures the alien that they are just helping him survive. Later on, Regina, the secretary and representative of the president, is talking with the other officials pertaining to the recent events. Reports say that there are other spheres that sprung up all around the world and one satellite is missing, which is the Defense Systems Communications Satellite. It contains vital intelligence for the security all around the globe, which can be dangerous as the aliens already know everything about Earth. On the contrary, the humans know nothing about the alien beings and their motives on Earth. Regina arrives at the military hospital to talk about the alien and how its body formed like a baby on an incubator as each hour he grows to a grown human. Regina, Michael, and Helen interview the alien while he is still adjusting to his body. The alien introduces himself as Klaatu and tells them that he has been dispatched to meet with the world's leaders to represent a larger group of alien species. Regina laughs at this and advises him to just tell her what he wants since she is the closest he will get to their president. She then commands the medic team to use sedatives and other medicine to make Klaatu's brain defenseless and easy to interrogate. Thus, he will also be taken to a safe facility and interrogated because of his refusal for spilling his intentions on visiting Earth. Helen volunteers to give the medicine and secretly grabs a false medicine and whispers in Klaatu's ear, "Run," before the security escorts her outside. Later, Klaatu arrives at the interrogation room where a polygraph and a single person is inside. The interrogator confidently asks questions about Klaatu's plan, but it backfires at him as Klaatu uses his powers to reverse the effect of the polygraph to gather information on how to escape the facility. He controls the security cameras and temporarily paralyzes the guards before he leaves and takes the clothes of the interrogator. Helen and the others are ordered to leave the facility. Meanwhile, Helen grabs the medicine for Klaatu before she leaves. At the other side of the room, Regina then orders her troops to capture Klaatu. But to cover up the story, she issues a news report that Klaatu is an escaped convict on the run. After some time, Klaatu gets as far as a railway station before his gunshot wound starts to bleed, and he requires assistance from Helen. Meanwhile, Helen is at home taking care of Jacob, who receives a call from the railway station and gives the call to Helen. She is informed that Klaatu is there looking for her and her medicine. Jacob and Helen immediately leave her house to go to his location while carrying the medicine for his wounds. Helen arrives at the train station to pick up Klaatu as he rests his body. Inside the vehicle, Helen, Jacob, and Klaatu are talking about the alien invasion and what Jacob's deceased father could have done. Jacob tells them that his father would have fought and killed the aliens. Helen disagrees as she thinks that Jacob's father would have tried another way to deal with the aliens. He then asks Klaatu's opinion about the alien invasion. He replies with, "You can't do anything and just accept it." Meanwhile, news quickly spreads about the large sphere's existence. It has sparked terror around globally as everyone is clueless and is expected to evacuate. Back at the military camp, the robot is silently standing at the field and patiently waits for Klaatu's return. The US military then decides to engage the robot using unmanned aerial vehicles with heavy artillery. But their weapons are controlled and destroyed by the robot, where they are left clueless for ideas on how to deal with the robot. Later that evening, Helen drives Klaatu to a nearby McDonald's to meet up with another alien to talk about their final verdict of Earth's fate. Inside the McDonald's, Mr. Wu and Klaatu had a chat. He is another extraterrestrial who was given the order to coexist with mankind for 70 years for observation. Klaatu resolves to wipe off mankind after learning of their tendency for destruction as he witnessed human behaviors for a short amount of time. This is to preserve the planet's unique capacity to support complex life compared to the other planets. However, Mr. Wu makes the decision to remain on Earth after discovering a new aspect of people that he adores. After that, they lead to a further location where a sheriff follows them silently to avoid alarming the fugitive. After reaching the deeper woods, Klaatu leaves Helen and Jacob in the car. Helen and Jacob argue about helping Klaatu, but Jacob does not understand the situation and attempts to leave. But suddenly, a bright light flashes nearby while Klaatu finds the other previously concealed smaller spheres to start evacuating animal species from Earth. He thinks that this is an alternative solution to save the planet as he still cannot perceive the concept of love that Mr. Wu is talking about. All the other smaller spheres are attracting the animals towards it from all over the globe for their safety away from humanity. After the bright light, the smaller spheres start to rise and leave the planet. Due to the weird occurrence, Helen argues with Klaatu about the fate of the Earth. When Klaatu mentions that the salvation of the planet lies on the humans dying, the sheriff decides to show himself and orders them to surrender, but Klaatu has other plans. He disarms the sheriff and pushes Helen's car towards the sheriff's car that kills him immediately. Helen and Jacob are in shock to see the death of a person in front of them. Klaatu then assures them that the sheriff will be fine as he cures him of his injuries. In a move of desperation, Helen brings Klaatu to Professor Barnhart, an expert who is a Nobel Prize-winning professor. She exerts more effort to persuade him that the world is not evil and that people have the power to improve things. Klaatu notices a chalkboard that has an equation that appears to be incorrect, where he erases the upper right part to correct the equation. Professor Barnhart is amazed at how Klaatu solved the equation easily. Klaatu explains how his species underwent a dramatic transformation to escape the death of its own star. Helen does not accept that eradicating human life is the best solution. They all persuade Klaatu that people can change their ways and are valuable beings. Jacob, however, is still skeptical of whether Klaatu deserves the trust that Helen and Professor Barnhart is giving him. He then contacts a hotline that he sees on the television and gives the location of Klaatu instead of sleeping soundly in the other room. However, it results in Helen being a prisoner instead of taking Klaatu. Thus, Jacob realizes that he is wrong for calling the authorities and feels sorry and begins to run. Klaatu follows the running Jacob, who is stepping on an old bridge below a strong current creek. He saves Jacob before he falls, which made him trust Klaatu. Jacob and Klaatu then head towards the direction of the larger sphere. Meanwhile, back at the larger sphere, the US military devises another plan to capture the robot by making an elevator-like path to bring the robot to a secure place for extraction. Regina is talking to Helen that the government can handle the situation and thinks that they are still under control. But while the robot is being tested in an underground facility with the use of many weapons in various ways in order to disarm it, the robot transforms into a swarm of nanites that resemble insects. It starts killing everything at the underground facility and exposes the true nature of humanity. Some of the workers at the underground facility order their men to push through the extraction of the robot regardless of the risk of killing them. But soon after, the nanites eat everything on its path. And on the way back to the central city, it attacks an armored battalion of the United States Army and countless civilians that are nearby, leaving only trails of dust. Inside the military facility, Regina understands that persuading Klaatu is the only way to guarantee humanity's survival. She allows Helen to depart and use a cell phone to contact Jacob and Klaatu. Meanwhile, at the deep forest, Klaatu and Jacob arrive at an abandoned shack where Klaatu notices that Jacob is trying to use the telephone to call for Helen. Klaatu then holds the telephone wire to give energy to the telephone, which he successfully powers. Jacob immediately calls Helen to have a designated meetup place where they both decide to meet up at a nearby graveyard. But Klaatu and Helen are unaware of Jacob's ulterior motive after seeing Klaatu save the injured sheriff. When Helen is given permission to depart, she does so with Michael, and they meet Jacob and Klaatu near a graveyard of Jacob's departed father. Jacob begs Klaatu to use his abilities to revive his deceased father, but Klaatu can't accomplish this task as it reaches the limits of his power. Yet, he explains to Jacob that since everything has a purpose in the universe, no one ever truly dies. And simply said, everything gets changed into something else. In this case, his father turned into a memory that will forever be part of Jacob's life. But the saddened Jacob tells Klaatu to leave him alone as he is disappointed that he cannot be with his father again physically. Michael and Helen show up just right after Klaatu walks away in a distance to watch them. Helen rushes towards Jacob and hugs him very tight. They start to cry as Helen expresses to Jacob how much she missed his father. But after all those collected interactions with Jacob, Helen, and Mr. Wu, Klaatu is enlightened that humans do indeed change. He is now persuaded to preserve mankind and to give them another chance to prove themselves. At this point, Klaatu is now aware of the other aspect of people that Mr. Wu is talking about. In the distance, the clear skies turn into gray as the nanites are consuming everything on its path, leaving nothing but dust. Helen and Klaatu notice that it is getting closer to their location. Is this how it ends? She merely cries out in terror to Klaatu. Klaatu responds yes, with a serious tone, and adds that he is unsure if he is capable of stopping the nanites. He asks for assurance and wants the people to continue changing for the better in exchange for their salvation. They move in the direction of the large sphere after Klaatu promises to attempt to stop it. She shouts at Michael to stop the car as they get closer to the sphere. Inside the office of Regina, she receives a call from the president to engage at the spheres with large explosives, which she cannot refuse as the order came from the president himself. Back at the field, Helen and the others are unaware that the president has approved of a target missile to attack the large sphere that may anger the nanites even more. Michael is killed as their car is blasted into a tree, but most of them are safe and have successfully escaped the nanites. But the nanites catch up to them, and even if Klaatu is successful in stopping the nanites, the cost for humans will be high. Helen, Jacob, and Klaatu race towards a nearby footbridge to hide under since they don't have enough time to get to the sphere. As the nanites swarm around them, Jacob and Helen's body are starting to break down, starting with bloody noses. Helen begs Klaatu to keep Jacob alive, even if it cost her own life to save him. Eventually, Klaatu decides to sacrifice his human body to save both Helen and Jacob by absorbing the disease throughout his body caused by the nanites. He then walks through the nanites to the sphere and touches it, giving his life as a sacrifice to halt the nanites. The movie ends with Klaatu's merging with the large sphere that results to generate a powerful blast that wipes out the nanites, thus saving mankind at the cost of rendering Earth's technology useless.